Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Struggle Hunters.
Doing the late night talk show thing?
Yeah.
Where they're like...
Act like we got some important stuff going
right?
on. And
I've always used my imagination there, and I always figured like he like leaned in. He's like, I really hate you right now. I don't know if that's true or not, but I always kind of thought that.
I guess we kind of know now, huh?
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, guys, welcome to the Struggling Hunters podcast. We appreciate you tuning in and listening to us. We're at episode 123 of our podcast edition. For those of you that don't know, we're the Struggling Hunters. It consists of Eric over here.
Hey guys.
And then I'm Joe. And again, for those that don't know, we've recently been able to be together more often. Just giving you a quick little background. I've recently moved from Utah to Colorado, and to be closer to Eric over here. But yeah, so the Struggling Hunters would get into hunting topics.
This is the Brokeback Mountain edition. We've been able to get closer.
I gotta watch my P's and Q's.
Anyways,
yeah. So hunting's one of the things that we like doing, and we tried doing a podcast, and so we're going down, getting ready for this upcoming elk hunt.
Yeah.
And in doing so, we've been reading regulations and whatnot, because Eric is participating this year, and I'm still on the fence, but in Colorado, you can have 2 tags at once. Not 2, well, I'm sure you can get 2 elk tags somehow, but you can hunt 2 different species during the same hunt.
I think you can do 3 actually because of turkey.
Oh, I think you're right.
But I never really do the fall turkey because
if you have your tag too, you can hunt coyotes.
Oh yeah, that too.
Yeah.
So you can
during the season.
If you really wanted to, you could get all kinds of hunting in.
Yeah.
You basically never come home again.
Correct. For the whole month of September.
Yeah.
We'll see you later.
Yep. All right. That's great show, everybody.
No, but yeah, we were talking about getting prepped and like we've, kind of everybody does. You go through, read through the proclamation regs and whatnot for the states that you're in. And me being new to Colorado, I've known some of them. And then as I've been getting ready ready, trying to get my residency moved into Colorado to be able to buy a Colorado elk tag, I've spent not a lot of time, but just, a couple of minutes over this last week trying to get my residency and my elk tag. And while doing so, there was a guy in front of me in line that that goes asking the lady kind of what the regs were on bear hunting. And he was he was pretty passionate about it. And he was trying to make it easy for himself, meaning, so he goes like, I have to have this bear that I know where it's at. It's there's this berry patch, and I've been watching them all year, and but it's going to take me 2 days to get the bear out. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I'm thinking as I'm sitting there listening to the story, and he goes, do I have to bring the hide out? And I was like, ooh, I do not know anything. He wasn't talking to me, but he was talking to the lady behind the counter, and I was trying to answer the questions as he was talking, and I had no clue, and she's like, oh yeah, you got to bring the hide out. It needs to be inspected within I think the regs say 5 days.
5 days, yeah.
So and he's like, I want to minimize my weight because it's going to take me 2 days to pack the meat out, and she's like, well, no, it needs to be inspected, which I kind of thought that I read the regs saying it needed it, but I didn't look into any deeper as to why that was needed. No, excuse me. But it's, if you haven't had it inspected within 5 days, you become law-breaking citizen.
If you don't
get
bring in the hide in the head.
Yeah.
Is there? Hold on, I'm trying to read this. Is illegal to become. Does it really explain why they?
No.
Want to see the head and the hide?
No. Well, they take the head because they pull the tooth out. Like they have to pull the tooth out of the head.
Okay.
And they send that in for analysis of some sorts.
Do you know why the hide though?
Nope.
And what's the analysis?
Well, I'm sure age, and I think it's probably just for age. I don't know what.
So
else.
Is it more of for their scientific data?
Yeah.
So they can.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Probably see with the overall health of the bear and whatnot.
Because it doesn't say in the. So I mean or I'm not seeing it anyways. Yeah, because it doesn't really. Yeah, it doesn't really identify why it has to be that way, because most of these laws, usually have a reason why. So I was kind of curious, but it doesn't really explain it there. And until you started talking about it more, I didn't think about trying to look it up before the podcast. I would have done that before the podcast if I would have thought about that. But maybe I'll write that down. And next time, try to get more of a definition of why they want the hide and skull whenever they only take the tooth.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to get at is why. I guess maybe it's to identify that it is that bear. So if the skull and the head and the hide is together, because if you just brought in any old bear skull,
right.
Without the hide, then they'd be like, well, is this the one that you actually... I don't know. I think it gets tricky. That's what sucks about, all these rules are put in place because idiots try to break the law, right?
Right.
And so it's like, well, if idiots wasn't doing dumb stuff, then we wouldn't have to do all these processes. But, it is what it is, and you got to do what you got to do. But yeah, I'm one of those people that... whenever, especially with rules and stuff, and somebody makes a rule to make a rule, I'm like, well, why do we got to do an extra step? I mean, is this because you're trying to be somebody, or is this an actual thing that is a safety issue, or you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm real curious of why you got to do it. I mean, I think I'm kind of putting it together of why, but it's very interesting that you have to do that whole process. Bring the hide, the head, and then but then all they do is pull a tooth. And it's like, well, why couldn't you just give them a tooth? I feel like I see the complications there. Right. You could just pull it, but I don't know. I mean, you couldn't just go to Yogi Bear and pull his tooth, right?
Right.
So I mean, that it's not like you could go to any bear and be like, hey, I don't want to kill you, but I just want your tooth, but I think
they might take measurements and stuff off the skull too, because I know bobcats and stuff in Utah, if you got a bobcat, you'd have to take it in. I think they pull a tooth and they take measurements and stuff.
Oh, 10-4. Okay. So, well, this was starting to make more sense. So I got my bear tag, to explain to everybody. I got my bear tag this year. This is my first bear tag that I've ever gotten. Is gotten the word? Ever
gotten?
Ever possessed.
Possessed.
Anyway, it's my first bear tag that I've ever had. And so I'm a little fuzzy on all the rules too. Actually, I didn't know that until you told me the story about the guy in front of you talking about bringing the bear in. I didn't know that. I was like, oh yeah, I'll get a bear, and I'll bring the head down or whatever. Because actually, I was wondering that too. I'm like, do I want to do a carpet if I get a bear?
Right.
So, or a rug rather, but carpet. Yeah, bear carpet. It's a big bear. But no, I was like, do I want to do a bear rug, or if I end up getting a bear, which I don't know if I'll do or not, because Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I kind of want to if it's my first bear, but
Right.
but I don't know if I'm gonna or not. But anyway, yeah, until you said that, I was like, I never, I probably would have found it whenever I was reading through the regs because it wasn't necessarily a spur of the moment to get the bear tag, but it kind of was at the same time because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to. And then I'm like, you know what? I saw a bear last year whenever I was hunting for elk, so I'm just going to go ahead and do it. And that way, if I see a bear, I can legally shoot it. So
Right.
So anyways, yeah, so I haven't done a whole lot of research in the
bear world.
So it's good to know, though. That's kind of why we're doing this podcast today is to talk about a few things that people don't know about some of the regs.
And the other thing, too, that like I haven't come across yet, I wonder if there's another, we need to actually grab, like if there's an actual bear regulation book other than just, like the regular.
The big game, you mean?
Yeah.
There might be. I don't
because,
think so,
like,
but
we've kind of read through like the Colorado Big Game magazine thing that they hand out for 2022, and there's not really all that information. But the other thing that now that I'm sitting here revisiting the story was that she was like, well, Colorado is a mandatory harvest, or not, how she mandatory harvest. What were the words she used? She used some they weren't big words. I just can't remember what they were. Meaning that like you have to non-wasting state or something like that. Meaning you have to like bring home the meat. You can't just shoot the bear, skin it, and take the skull. Like by law, you have to pack out the 4/4, the back strap, and the loins.
Yeah.
But like I didn't see any of that.
You know what? Because I think that goes for all the animals. I bet it's probably not in the bear section, but it's probably in the general section.
And I guess I've never really thought of that because I usually if I leave any meat behind, it's because it's in the past it's been because I shot and tore up a big chunk of meat that's like unedible.
I think that's probably understandable.
But at the same time, not like I left like a whole shoulder or something.
Well, I'll tell you where it kind of gets, because I know somewhere I've read it before in these that you got to take the loins, and me and you've talked about, would we do the gutless method or not, and. Now, I've seen a video where you can still get the loins by doing the gutless method, but it's a little tricky, and a lot of people that do the gutless method actually don't get the loins. So I always thought that was kind of interesting.
Well, then one thing, too, kind of just a side note on that, like I've thought about doing the gutless method because I was like, man, you can leave all that like inside the animal, all the guts, and so you get off like all the main core of the meat, right? Like all 4/4 and the back straps. And then I was like, well, how much easier is it to mess with all that and then like gut it and like let the guts roll out and then take the loins? You know?
Just take it with you.
Like it was just a thought that I have. Evidently, we're so successful that we really don't know what that's like. But, but I was like, I don't think that should be all that hard. But anyway, I just thought that, the words that she used, I was like, oh man, there's a lot more to this than what meets the eye.
Well, man, it's hard to read everything. Oh, right here. No.
But the other thing too.
That's probably gonna sound good on the podcast. Going.
Eric likes to use the word
too much.
And then I go, one of the things too, is that we probably can transfer over to elk hunting, is that, well, Eric's looking at it right now. Well, part of the things I was thinking of was evidence of sex.
Yeah, so real quick, I could give you a buck and a bull. Head with antlers or horns attached to the carcass, or testicle, scrotum, or penis attached to the carcass.
Right. So
you gotta leave.
You gotta leave that on the quarter.
You gotta leave a little something on there.
Yeah.
And then doe or cow, head, udder, or vulva attached to the carcass. And then black bear, male testes or penis, female vulva.
It was funny, like when the lady was telling me that, like, can't remember what brought it up, but she's like, you don't have to leave a whole lot on it. It just has to be like attached to it. Like,
now it says that though, but like, that's if you're bringing it in, right? Oh, for CWD testing. Yeah. So,
or even just as you're bringing it out of the woods, right?
Oh yeah. It is illegal to have or transport a big game carcass without evidence of sex naturally attached. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so last year whenever I got my doe, I didn't really worry about it too much because I didn't like skin her out. But if I get an elk, I'm going to probably debone, skin, just throw the meat in there. But I guess I got to...
Yeah, you got to leave proof of sex.
Proof of sex somehow, so yeah. Mm-hmm. So I guess the skinned... I got to leave the skin, or what I skin off. I'll have to leave that part of the head or something till I move out of there. But I think a lot of people, you ever notice that a lot of people have their elk head like bone or skinned off and everything and just sitting there. I mean, they're traveling down the road. Nah, I think some of those guys are just trying to show off what they got. But
right.
I wonder if that's actually illegal.
Yeah.
According to this, that seems like it might be a little bit illegal. If you're supposed to travel out there with it attached to the head.
I wonder though, like, if it just means cut. I don't know. I'm starting to split hairs, and it doesn't really matter. Or not, it matters, but like I'm not making sense.
Yeah, I know. We kind of went down rabbit holes that we weren't prepared for, I guess. That's the problem with having it right here in front of us is we start looking at it. We're going, we can't just talk off the top of our domes.
But the other thing, too, like kind of along the proof or whatnot, we were kind of discussing is your regulations for antlers. Like you got for elk, there is some areas where, what's the word I'm looking for? A point where there is no point restriction.
For elk?
For elk. There's a handful of units, but the majority of the units in Colorado, you're 4-point or better. It has to be just 4-point on one side, right? Like, or both. It can be a spike on one side, 4-point on the other.
Yeah, the way that I understand it. Well, I'll tell you, the easiest way to figure this out is it's a 4-point bull. Now, the way I read that is it has to be 4 points on either side, or like it could be like a 4 points on both sides.
So I'm looking at the picture of that they have on the website, and a legal bull is 4 points, or at least 4 points on one side.
Right, so total number of 4 points or 4 points on one side.
Right.
But the easiest way to figure that out is their brow tines with the 5-inch rule.
Right.
If they have 5-inch brow tines, then you're probably solid.
So we see an elk, make sure it stops, run over and measure its brow tine.
Which, I know, right? That's kind of a tricky one. But I think the biggest thing that they're trying to stay away from or not do is basically a spike elk. They don't want you to shoot spikes.
Yeah.
That's why the brow tine rule is in there. But, so 4 points. So it could be basically like a forky. As long as there's 4 points on the head.
Yeah.
But you got to have at least 5-inch brow tines also. Or, well, it says or 5-inch brow tines, right?
Yeah, so it says, where did it go? An antler point is a projection. I think it's on this side. Oh my goodness! I was reading it somewhere, and then we get on camera and it just goes away.
Yeah, trying to be fast sometimes makes it feel slow. Like trying not to have too much dead air time makes it. Then when you're trying to look up something, you're like, "Oh, this is taking forever."
Was it here? So, see, in most units, bull elk taken must have 4 points or more on one antler, or must have a brow tine that's at least 5 inches long. The intent of the antler point restriction is to increase the number of branched antler bulls reaching 2 or more years of age.
Oh, we were wrong about the 4. So it must have. Okay, this breaks it down. So in most of the units, and this ain't all reunits, there is some no restriction units out there in Colorado, but most of your restrictions are in Colorado, or most of your restriction units, it's 4 points or more on one antler. So it is, you have to have at least 4 points on one antler, or a brow tine of at least 5 inches long. So if you were to shoot a 3-point on one antler, but the brow tines were 5 inches long, you'd still be legal.
Right.
So earlier we said 4 inches altogether on, or 4 point altogether, right? Is that what we said?
I think so.
But we were wrong about that. So hopefully anybody that said, "Oh, I think I'm done listening to this podcast," and they already turned it off, they're screwed. They're going to go out there and think that they can do
they can hunt whatever they want.
Yeah, they can do a 4-point altogether, but what it is, but it's 4 points on one antler, and then or 5 inches long brow tines.
Yeah,
which is kind of hard to identify the 5-inch brow tines, but I mean, I guess if you think you can, then you can. But I think the biggest thing is just try to find a bull with 4 points on one horn and you're good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it comes down to. And most bulls, if they have 5-inch brow tines, they probably do have at least 4 points. Yeah, right?
You would think.
Because your brow tine is considered part of the points, right?
Right.
But whenever you're reading through these, when you're reading through these, you know, and you're trying to make sense of them, and Joe and I, we just started doing it like hour before, you know, we just come up with a few points that we wanted to talk about today. And you're reading through these, and I think sometimes it's like a little bit of overthinking it, like it's just not quite spelled out, you know, in a way that makes sense or whatnot. And then we overthink it because we're trying to make sure that we do the right thing. And it's kind of tough, you know, like the one thing I hate trying to do, I feel like you're always deciphering brochure books.
Right.
And trying to figure out what they really mean, you know. And sometimes it might be a little mixture of both, like they're trying to sound a little too smart for the process, and then also we might be overthinking it a little bit for the process.
Yeah.
But
so you got wondering this just look down at this, and we're talking about head and antlers and camp and going down the road and whatnot. So it says head or skull plate with both antlers naturally attached must accompany the carcass of bulls in camp or in transit, even when the scrotum or testicles are used as evidence of sex. So you can be separated, but they have to be accompanied together. Yeah.
So I, with that, I think I get it. Is you kind of gotta skin it out at least to the point where the evidence of sex is on there, and then And then
you have to keep both of those within the same truck. So it's not like you send your buddy back to Arkansas with the antlers and you go back to Nevada with the meat.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense.
So you got to keep it together. So, yeah. I mean, not keep it together. You got to keep everything within the same vessel of travel.
Right. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Well, let's go over real quick. So I think we've done a pretty good job on points and how to transport your meat.
Okay.
Let's just go over real quick and then we'll get out of here. Is the Hunter Orange and Pink, the fluorescent orange and pink. A couple things on that is basically you have to have 500 square inches on your outside layer. Now, the one thing that always confuses me, because I don't think we really do it well, is your pack.
Right.
It doesn't even say in the regulations like your pack it just says your clothes.
Right.
Your outside clothing.
Your person, more or less.
Yeah, it doesn't say nothing about your pack. And most packs don't have some do. I think yours has an orange thing, right? Like
my meat shelf. It was, I pull it out.
Yeah.
That's orange.
But some packs, like my pack, doesn't have anything orange on it. No, I take that back. I think the rain cover is orange. Doesn't matter. Anyway, point is it doesn't have a lot of orange on it. And so I always wonder that. I'm like, well, me and you, we carry packs every time we go out. Like, does that have to be orange? Because it doesn't really specify that I've seen.
Right.
But you got to have 500 square inches of orange on your body, on your outside layer. And then for your cap, you have to have a cap that has orange all the way around your head, 360 degree view of orange on your head. And for Colorado. Now, whenever you're archery hunting, so during the archery season, from what I read was you don't have to have orange, but it is highly recommended during the muzzleloader season.
Right, because the muzzleloader starts and ends within the archery season.
Within the archery season.
Yeah.
So, which this year is between the September 10th and the 18th, I believe. So it's kind of I can't remember for sure, but I feel like last year it was like the third week of hunting. I could be wrong about that, but it was like the third week of the elk hunt, and then but this year it's like basically the second weekend of elk hunt. So so make sure you wear your orange during any rifle season, but archery season you don't, it's not required, but it is recommended during the muzzleloader season. And with that, Joe, do you have any closing thoughts?
Hunting season's coming up. Start getting your packs ready. We'll air this one, and then the season will have started the following week. And
yes.
And so just get that final tuning and prep for the season.
All right, guys. So this one, we were kind of a little all over the place. I mean, we were kind of structured, but then it was kind of all over the place at times because we were trying to do some research. So hopefully it turns into a good one. I'm hoping that it was informative. Let us know if this is something that you like. We could probably do more of it to where we're doing a little bit of research in the regulations or something. Leave a comment. Tell us if you like that or not. With that said, guys, thanks for listening to the Struggling Hunters. Thanks for all the support that you give us. Thanks for subscribing and liking to our videos. And thanks for listening to us on the podcast form like Apple or Spotify. We really appreciate all your support. Thank you, guys. You guys are part of an awesome community joining us in the Hunting Shack. We appreciate everything that you do. Have a good one. We're out of here.
Bye.